My old man always told me, don't let them know you are coming for them. Just take Route 1, be direct and annihilate them. A man of few, if not direct, words. Maybe that was something I had forgotten recently, but it was coming. It was on its way. I sat thinking about the events of the recent weeks, and as hard as I tried, I could not identify anything specific on its own that gave me cause to think she was cheating on me. The feeling that filled my being came as a result of lots of little things added together that left me with a feeling of unease more than anything else. There was something going on, but I could not put my finger on it. I was fairly certain something was afoot, yet I had no proof, no idea who, what, or where it was happening, if indeed it was. I had even started to question my own sanity. Was I making too much of things, overreacting maybe, imagining all kinds of scenarios where she was cheating, but with who? I had no idea. Yet my gut was tying itself in knots. I felt rather than knew something was going on. Maybe it was the very beginning of a fling or affair, maybe a one-off. The more I tortured myself with thoughts and imaginings, the more certain I became. Strangely, I had been thinking like this for what seemed like weeks now. Yet how long had whatever it was been going on before I became even slightly aware something was amiss? I took another slug of my JD. The ice rattled in the glass, telling me it was time for a refill. I caught the bartender's eye and he nodded. He slid along the bar and replaced my glass with another double JD on the rocks. He gave me a half smile as if reading my mind. He had seen the same look many times before. His look was one in part of support yet sympathy at the same time as he recognized the tortured look behind my eyes. The sweet taste of JD warmed the back of my mouth and throat as I took another gulp. I must take it easy, I resolved as I looked around the bar, taking in the handful of other drinkers. It was quiet, the low murmur of chatter just filling the room with unintelligible words and adding a backdrop to my personal growing sense of misery. There was no joy here. The faces of the patrons that filled the bar were all bland and unremarkable. No one stood out, all nondescript and average in every way. The only woman in the place, in her 40s at a guess, slightly overdressed for the time of day in the place, looking a little desperate maybe, was being fed drinks by an older guy. He looked as if he was hoping to get lucky, and looking at her, he didn't need to try so hard, I thought. She already had his number. Other souls seemed to be just passing time while the rain outside fell and further dampened spirits. Sometime soon, each would run out of reasons to stay in the sanctity of the bar and make the journey homeward. I was still undecided what I was going to do. So what's the story? I turned in the direction of the voice. She looked at me, eyes boring deep into my soul, it felt like. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. She stood in the dimly lit bar, water dripping from her as she started to slip her coat off. "What are you doing here, Sarah?" "I was worried about you. I had an idea I would find you here, so here I am. Want to talk?" I looked at her, my mind trying to regain some balance as I stared at her. "Worried about me? Why? What do you mean?" I looked at her, trying to see what she was thinking, worried in case she was trying to catch me out in some way. Could I trust her? I sipped my JD and ordered her a vodka and Coke, which was delivered with some style by the barman, smiling now as he took in the sight of Sarah. She caught his eye as he served her, smiling one of her sweet butter wouldn't melt smiles as his eyes wandered across her cleavage. Sarah waited until the bartender had moved away before she said anything else, her eyes wary as we looked at each other, both unsure and jostling for position and advantage. "Well, it is all to do with the way you have been acting recently. You look like you have the worries of the world on your shoulders. You want to tell me just what the hell is going on?" I stared into her brown eyes for a moment before looking away. She always could read me like a book. That was something I always liked about her. We got on. We seemed to get each other somehow, too. We had arguments, but we never fell out about things. We always were straight and honest with each other, well to a point. That is, what was left unsaid was just understood. "Sarah, okay, we're fine. There is nothing to concern yourself about, really." I looked at her as she took in my words. I could see she wasn't buying it. My heart sank. I had tried to pass it off, but I could see it wasn't going to wash. Sarah took a slow sip of her drink as she looked straight into my soul again. Jesus, here it comes, I thought. She placed the glass on the table in front of her, then locked her fingers together as she leaned slightly forward and towards me. I know what is going on. I don't know what you mean. I tried bluffing. For heaven's sake, Jack, I know, so let's level with each other and stop messing around. The bartender caught the last few words. His head twisted round just enough to try to catch more of what he supposed would be something juicy. Let's sit in one of the booths. This is too public for my liking. I saw the disappointed look cross the bartender's face as we stood and stepped across the bar into one of the side booths. We sat at each other like prize fighters, waiting for the other to take a swing. Okay, so what is it that you think you know? I jousted. Nice try, Jack. You know you can't lie to me. We have known each other far too long. I know, so tell me about it. You know you need to talk to someone, so come on out with it. I had known Sarah since she was 17. She was always around and had a sort of crush on me at one time when I started dating her sister Claire. Claire was 3 years older. We began dating when we were both 20. Sarah and I had always got on, much to the annoyance of her older sister. They were as different as chalk and cheese in a lot of ways. But their temper was shared with evidence of many sibling blow-ups over the years. After 2 years, we had married and settled down to what I thought was an idyllic future. We were both working in decent jobs and earning enough to make life comfortable at the least. My sister-in-law, Sarah, had been having a fun time throughout her late teens and early 20s, and now at the age of 25 was looking for something more grown-up. I felt she had sown her wild oats and matured into someone that any guy would be lucky to get close to, in my opinion. Claire and I had been married for 5 years. Well, it would be 5 in another month when our anniversary is due. That is, if we make it that far. I used to think Sarah was a very attractive woman and one who I counted as a friend as well as my sister-in-law. I looked at her as my eyes started to fill as I searched for the words to explain how I felt, but still, with her words I know loud and clear in my mind, she reached across the table, her fingers stroking mine before gripping them tightly, a sign of support and more to me as I felt my heart slowly breaking. Okay, Jack. If you won't say it, then I will. She is cheating on you. I think you know it. I certainly do. Now what are you going to do about it? My eyes widened as I heard the words, but still refused to comprehend as I stubbornly tried to work out what I knew and what it meant. I didn't want to hear any more. In my mind, if I didn't really know, then it couldn't be happening and couldn't then hurt me. I also wouldn't have to deal with it. Sarah looked at me. She saw the glassy-eyed look I gave her. Was it shock or denial? Jack, I love you dearly, but for heaven's sake, wake up. I'm sure it's some kind of misunderstanding or something. I tried to palm her off and also tried to further delude myself. Sarah's eyes suddenly flashed with rage. She reached out and slapped me round the face. The bartender looked across and stopped wiping the glass in his hand. Everything okay there? I held up my hand. Yes, sure. No problem here. I moved my hand to my cheek, the heat from the stinging slap making it glow. I was sure there was a perfect imprint of Sarah's hand there too. Sorry, Jack, but you infuriate me sometimes. You know how I care about you. I can't bear to see you being hurt this way, so wise up and man up. This is happening. We need to do something about it. I gulped as I rubbed my cheek. The full force of my situation was starting to dawn on me as the sting from her slap permeated my brain. Okay, I will start. I'm sure you at least suspect something, but here goes anyway. A few weeks ago, I was with her when she got a call on her mobile. She left the room to take it, which was an odd thing to do, right? We are sisters, for heaven's sake. What has she got to hide from me? I nodded, fearing the worst. But as I sipped my JD, she went on. I just thought it was odd, so when I got a chance, I checked her phone. So trusting, no lock code on it. The call was from a guy she had as a contact showing as Richard. I didn't know of any Richard or Rick, but thought I would keep an eye out for any recurrence. So who was this Richard or Rick fella, I asked, trying to rack my brains for any info on that name. I did find out who he is after a week or so. He is a guy she used to know years ago, back before she started going out with you. Anyway, it seems he has got in touch via one of those social media sites or chat sites or something. Looks like they have been messaging for a few weeks now too, but I didn't know anything about that. All I knew was there were little things that seemed to happen that were keeping us apart somehow. Yes, I know, but that was all part of what they were doing. Nothing obvious, but just seemed like things were falling into place for them. So it is just a couple of friends messaging each other, reliving old times or something. Yes, seems like that was how it started anyway. You mean something has happened? Happened, yes. You telling me you haven't noticed anything a little bit suspicious? Only that it seemed like circumstances seemed to be conspiring to keep us apart. And of course the obvious lack of opportunity for any fun, too. Sarah looked at me with a look of incredulity on her face, as if I was stupid or something. What? I stared back at her. Jack, I love you dearly, but for heaven's sake, get your head out of your bum. The reality was seeping deeper into my befuddled brain as her words were making it more real by the minute. This is serious, I thought. I took another gulp and braced myself. How far has it gone, do you think, or do you know? Sarah looked at me, her eyes flickered and looked away from me for a split second. That was all the answer I needed. When, how, where, I asked in quick time, my mind playing catch-up now as I felt my rage starting to brew inside. The race between logic, common sense, and pure animal rage was off and running. I know she has met him at least 3 times over the past 2 weeks. I wasn't sure at first and only really knew for sure 2 days ago that it had progressed. I had lunch with one of my girlfriends who works with Claire, and she let something slip. I didn't let on at the time, and she covered it well, so I let it slide. She met him twice for lunch, and it turns out at least once for dinner one evening last week. Does that fit in with what you have noticed? I looked at her as I took in her words. There were a couple of times recently when I had called her office to arrange a lunchtime meet. She wasn't there or had just gone out. Was that when she met him? Then last week she had that seminar thing she just had to attend. It was a late notice thing and arranged for after work. She had gotten home late that night after midnight. Thinking back, she had come in saying that it had dragged on, and the team had gone for a drink in the hotel bar to unwind before leaving. No sex that night, I remember too, and she hit the shower before bed too. My mind was racing, my brain scrambled as I took in these hurtful facts, each one piling on the agony and twisting the knife that was firmly embedded in my heart. "Screw this," I suddenly spat. Sarah looked at me, her eyes now showing concern. "Jack, what are you going to do? Don't do anything stupid. It's not worth getting yourself into trouble with the law for." I looked at her. I could sense from the look on her face that she had seen the change. My face felt like stone. My heart was now a granite block. My body was preparing itself for what was to come, and she could see it. Screw it. I will not put up with this in any way. It will stop. I will stop it. There is no room in my life for a cheating. She will pay. He will pay too. My eyes glazed over as the fury inside built. My muscles tensed, fists tightened. I was never a violent guy. I had my share of confrontations when younger, but never ever looked for trouble. Just sometimes you need to step up and face things, which is what I did then. I was just a little out of practice is all, but that was going to be remedied fast too. Jack, whatever it is you have in mind, take a step back. Think about it. Don't rush in without a plan, or it will all go to hell. You need to think and prepare, or you will end up getting burned. Her words soaked through my rage, seeping into the sensible part of my brain, and made sense in a weird way. It helped me calm down some and realize that what I had been suspecting was indeed true. So I wasn't going crazy, at least. Is that where you think she is now? I looked across at Sarah. I could see her eyes had filled, and a tear had started its lonely track down her pretty face. Yes, I know she is with him now. That's why I came looking for you. I felt the rage stirring again. My fist thumped the table. Several people in the bar turned and looked. I raised my hand to the bartender. He gave me that half smile again. How the hell did he know? Do you know where? I asked, more in hope than anything else. No, I don't have a clue. But I will see my girlfriend again tomorrow and find out what I can. I know he is married with a couple of kids, though, not sure where he lives. but I will do what I can to find out if it helps. I reached for her hand, holding it tightly as I brushed the tear from her cheek. Thank you, Sarah. I know this is hard for you, but I do appreciate it, really, I do. What will you do? She looked at me worriedly. I know I can't do what I want to, at least not yet, but I will stop this, and when I do, it will be final, and there will be retribution. No remorse, but they will both pay. In the meantime, I will secure what is mine, get the evidence I need for whatever I decide to do next. Sarah looked worriedly at me as I finished my JD. I caught the bartender's eye, and he poured another for each of us. As he shuffled over, I could see Sarah was wanting to say something. I held my hand up to stop her until the drinks were served. I slid a note to him. Keep the change. He nodded and left. So how long before you confront her? I have a lot to consider. I will make a couple of calls tomorrow. I need to secure my assets, and I'll make sure that she does not get a penny from me. Not one penny. You know it will be difficult to be around her, don't you? Yes, I realize that. But it has been like that in a way for the past few weeks anyway. I'm guessing if she hasn't noticed now, she won't see any change. Sarah gulped her drink down and stood. I have to go, Jack. Can we talk again tomorrow? I will find out what I can for you. She slipped her coat back on. I stood and helped her, feeling her close to me. Damn, she looked so much like her sister. She looked up at me. I could see the tears in her eyes as I kissed her cheek. Go home. I will be fine. I will call you tomorrow. She smiled and turned away. I watched her step through the door and into the dark and wet evening. I breathed a deep sigh as I sat down, wondering what to do now. One thing was certain: they will pay, and it will be swift, relentless, and unforgiving. I don't recall much after that. Somehow I woke in my own bed with a mouth like the bottom of a parrot's cage. My head was still swimming as I raised it off the bed. Rolling over, I noticed I was alone, and there was no sign of Claire. My senses slowly awakening as I heard noises from downstairs. Sliding my feet over the side of the bed, I tried to stand. Oh my, what did I do to myself last night, I thought. I staggered to the bathroom and started to rouse myself from the aftermath of my JD cloud. I wandered downstairs in a haze of pain. My joints ached. Everything seemed to hurt. Stepping into the kitchen, I saw her. Hello, love. What did you get up to last night to get into that state? Wouldn't you like to know? Had a drink with an old mate is all. Got carried away. I sat and poured orange juice, swallowed it, and went for another. Oh, really? Who was that? Anyone I know? My mind clicked into gear. No, I don't think so. It was Rick. I knew him from way back. Haven't seen him in years, and he is in town for a couple of days on business. Rick? There, just a flicker of something in her face as she turned. Yes, I am sure you may remember him, thinking about it. We were at college together, played football for a couple of years. Tall guy, dark hair. He asked after you anyway. Claire looked puzzled. Sorry, I don't recall a Rick. Still, as long as you had fun, strike one. She sat opposite me at the table. I looked at her as I thought of my talk with Sarah last night. So, honey, what did you get up to last night? Anything exciting? What time did you get in? She looked at me in the eye as she lied to me. Oh, nothing much, really. I finished up at work, and then a couple of us went for a light meal and a drink. I was in by 9:30. I was getting worried about you, but then I remembered you had a late meeting. I knew she wasn't home by then because I was still home at 10:00 p.m. That's when I had enough and went to the bar. Strike two. I have some things I need to get done this morning, so I will shower and get on my way. I may be late this evening, so don't wait up. Rick said he would be in touch. We still have some catching up to do. You will have to invite him over if he's here for a few days. It's nice to catch up with old friends. Sure, I will do that. You must remember him, love. She looked at me blankly, her face trying not to react or give anything away, but she felt something. I could see it. Maybe it will come back to me later, love. Now get moving or you will be late. Do you want me to drive you? You did have a few last night. No, it's fine. I have to get a cab and collect my car anyway. As I recall, I left it at the bar, so thanks anyway. I went off to get dressed. After more orange juice and a couple of painkillers, I left the house 30 minutes later as Claire was getting ready. I had a busy day ahead. One thing was for sure, this was not going to go on for long. I gritted my teeth as I thought of Claire with this Rick character. My fists balled up. He was going to pay. I was going to crush the worm. Work was chaotic. I had call after call to deal with issues on the line. My secretary fielded some, but there were meetings I needed to be a part of, so I couldn't duck any of those. By mid-morning, the initial rush eased off, and I had some almost free time to deal with my personal issues. I closed my office door and started to check out my financials. Within 15 minutes, I had tightened the purse strings and moved some cash out of reach. I also arranged a meeting with a solicitor to discuss a possible divorce. I still had a few days before that, so my thinking was that it would give me time to get more information. Not that it would matter that much anyway, but could give me some leverage. Claire had her own bank account and credit card, so there was no need to do anything there. It was access to our joint account that was of concern, but I plugged that loophole quickly, so if it came to it, she couldn't get any more than what was left. My own account was secure and only had a smallish balance. The rest was shifted out and safe. We had no children, so essentially it would be a straightforward split should it come to that. I had decided in my own mind that we could only get over this if Claire were to confess her sin, so to speak, and seek forgiveness. Any kind of reticence there, and we were done. That thought made me feel sad. I sat at my desk in silence as I mulled over what had transpired and the actions I had taken so far today. I needed more information on the Rick character and evidence. Or would the fact that I knew about it be enough to really screw the two of them over? The phone rang, breaking my reverie. "Yes, it's me, Sarah. How are you, Jack?" "Oh, busy with stuff, thoughts, plans, all of that and more. Basically confused as to why, but I have started things moving. I found out more about this guy from my girlfriend. His name is Rick Stone. He is married. I have his address and where he works, too. I managed to get it without letting on what was happening. My friend knows Claire and has seen her with him recently. From what she says, they are getting real hot with each other. As much as they try to hide it, the signs are there, she says. Has she seen them together? Yes, they were at the restaurant the other evening after the seminar. They stayed on after everyone else left. She said they looked cozy with each other. Well, at least that's a start. I'm sure they have CCTV there if needed. Anyway, give me his details. I need to get on with this. It is chewing me up inside. I don't know how long I can keep it in." Sarah passed over his details. Within a few minutes, I had found his social media page and had a photo of him. That's when I thought I remembered his face. It was familiar, but where and when did I see that face before? I looked at the clock. It was almost lunchtime, and I decided to give Claire a call to maybe meet up, or just to stir the pot some. My heart was cold as I made the call. The knot in my stomach seemed to swell fit to burst as I heard her answer. "Hi, honey," she said, recognizing my number. "Hello, babe. What are you doing for lunch? I thought we could meet up if you're free." "Oh, sorry, honey. I have a meeting scheduled in 30 minutes that will go on through the afternoon. I was going to grab something quick from the deli next door. That's okay." "What's the meeting about? Anything exciting?" "Same old routine stuff with a new client is all. A Mr. Stone, I think it is." Her words cut through me like a knife. She was almost rubbing it in my face by telling me who it was. I held my breath for a few seconds while I tried to keep it together. "Honey, are you there?" Her voice sank through the earpiece. "Yes, I am here. Strike 3. You and Mr. Stone will be getting yours real soon now. No reprieve and no mercy. Total scorched earth. Yes, love, I am here. Sorry, was distracted by something I just thought of. Look, I have to go, and I know you need to get yourself ready for your meeting too, so have fun, and I will see you later." "Okay, bye, love you." "Bye." I put the phone down. I was seething. I sat grinding my teeth when my secretary popped her head around the door. "Jack, I'm going to that deli down the street. Do you want me to get you something?" I thought for a moment. "Yes, get me anything. Surprise me, as long as it is big, hearty, and has lots of red meat inside. I feel in the mood for something to get my teeth into." She looked at me strangely and nodded as she closed the door. She thought her boss was acting a little strangely. He'd been closeted all morning, businesslike, yes, but there was also something else. There was something brewing. She just knew it. Sarah called by her sister's office. As she strode into the foyer, she saw her sister step out of the elevator and walking towards the front door alongside a tall, dark-haired man. He looked to be about 30, so a couple of years older. She recognized him after seeing his photo online. Rick Stone. She stepped in front of her sister, who jumped in surprise seeing her. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" Sarah looked at her sister, seeing her discomfort at her obvious plans being interrupted. "Just thought I would drop in and see my sister and maybe go for lunch," she smiled innocently. "Well, me and Mr. Stone here are having a business lunch, so maybe another time." He held out his hand. "Rick Stone, nice to meet you." "Pleased to meet you, Mr. Stone. Have you known Claire long?" He looked a little flummoxed at her question. Claire started to pull him away. "Look, Sarah, we have to go. We have a meeting. Catch up soon." Sarah smiled as she watched the couple go out the door and into a waiting cab. She caught her sister looking back at her as it pulled away. I sat in my office, chewing my way through a huge sub. It was filled with red meat, and I smiled to myself as I gnawed at it slowly, savoring it as I thought of my next steps. Sarah had confirmed that Claire had left her office, so I had called her secretary and found that she was going out all afternoon. Well, isn't that just great? Everything was set as far as my finances were concerned. I had a locksmith on speed dial and had agreed what was required in advance. My solicitor was primed and ready to fire as soon as I gave him the rest of the information he had asked for. Okay, tonight was going to be the first stage. I was going to really screw with a pair of them for a little while before I pulled the trigger. My old man always told me, don't let them know you are coming for them. Just take Route 1, be direct, and annihilate them. A man of few, if not direct, words. Maybe that was something I had forgotten recently, but it was coming. It was on its way. That evening I was home when Claire came through the door. She looked fine, nothing out of place, smelled normal too, until I went to kiss her. It was unmistakable, a man's cologne, faint but still there. She saw me look at her. I said nothing, gave her a light kiss on the cheek, and headed for the door. "Where are you off to? Are you okay?" "Yes, I am fine. I have a problem I need to deal with is all. Just popping round to Jerry's." He invited me over for poker with a couple of the guys from work. I thought it would do me good. Won't be too late. With that, I closed the door behind me, and grinding my teeth, I got in my car and slipped down the driveway. I drove to Jerry's, pulling up outside his place. He ushered me through the door and into his garage. Jerry, an amigo way back. He has always sailed close to the wind, had his issues with the police in the past, but given his particular brand of combat training, he was the ideal friend for what I had in mind. You don't screw about with a cage fighter. Jerry was a big guy. He was 63 and 200 pounds, all muscle. Not the sort of guy to mess with, believe me, with a temper to match his size. He was formidable, yet we had been firm friends since school. I had called Jerry earlier, and he had offered his help in any way. No questions asked, no matter what I needed. That sort of support. We quickly slipped through into the garage, and I changed my clothes into a pair of dark overalls with a matching ski mask. We looked like two mime artists. We stood looking at each other. No words were said as we got into a nondescript second-hand car he had got hold of. Nothing remarkable or noticeable about it. Cruising slowly across town to the address Sarah had given me, still no words passed between us. We had agreed the format before, so there was no need to say anything else. Jerry stopped the car outside Rick Stone's home. There was no sign of life as far as we could see. We waited in silence as the front door opened. We saw him step out. He got in his car and eased down the road. Jerry followed at a safe distance. We already knew where he was going, so there was no rush or panic. Parking at the driving range was no problem. We stayed in the car as Rick Stone went for his customary 50-ball bucket. It was something he did every week, apparently. Amazing what you can find out online if you know where to look. We settled back. The radio was on, and Kenny Rogers was crooning quietly. Jerry looked at me as the words fell from the radio. He reached out and turned it off. We sat watching and waiting. The tension inside me was almost unbearable. It was difficult to keep still and not step out and walk around, but that was risky. The car park started to empty until only a couple of other cars were left. We both tensed as we saw him making his way to his car. Jerry got out and stealthily made his way towards the target. Rick Stone was still reliving the last shot of his practice when he lifted the lid of his boot. As he laid his clubs inside, Jerry lifted and shoved him into the boot along with his clubs. One well-aimed punch to the jaw was all it took to silence him. The cage fighter and Jerry took over, and for the next 30 seconds, Rick Stone had some severe pain inflicted on him in the confines of the boot of his own car. Satisfied he had used the human punch bag just enough, Jerry switched his attention to Mr. Stone's groin. Several visits of Jerry's fists soon had him squealing before he passed out. He slammed the lid down and quickly got back to the car where I drove us out of the car park quietly with no fuss. "That went very well," Jerry mused as he pulled off his gloves and mask. "Thanks, Jerry, I really appreciate that. Don't worry, pal. Anytime. I still owe you and could never repay you for what you did for me. Well, that's what friends are for. At least your hands aren't banged up and there was no CCTV on the car park, so the job is done, as they say. Let's get back and start that card game. The others will be there by now." We drove back, and for the next 4 hours we played poker for fun, no high stakes. We were mates, and mates don't rip each other off. The atmosphere was good. The guys all knew what was going on and were behind me all the way. That alone made me feel good. I knew I had to do my business with Claire real soon, too. But first I was going to mess with her head. I stumbled through the door just after 1:00 a.m. I exaggerated the amount I had to drink. Jerry had got one of the guys to drop my car off. Claire was up waiting. Time for an Oscar-winning performance, I thought. "Honey, why are you up? I told you I would be a little late. Are you okay?" She looked at me closely. "Jerry and the guys just dropped me off in my car." Afraid I hit the JD a little hard again. I threw my jacket at the coat pegs and missed miserably, slumping into the sofa. I looked at her. Claire sat, her arms crossed, with a look of disgust on her face. I stared, goggle-eyed at her, my expression blank. "What?" She just tutted. She was bursting to say something. "Come on, out with it. What is going on, Jack? Is there someone else or something? You are acting really weird lately." I laughed. I could feel my anger brewing and bubbling inside me. I swallowed it back down. "All in good time, Jack. Take a chill pill. I am fine, my petal. I've been having a rough time recently is all. We'll be all over soon." Claire looked at me, my words playing on her mind. I could see it. She wasn't sure, but there was definitely something. We went up to bed. I made a thing of collapsing and dropping, apparently off to sleep almost immediately. That pissed her off. She was up for the full-on row, but I wasn't playing. Next morning, Claire was up first and brewing coffee. I rumbled down the stairs, acting obnoxious and as if I had a hangover. I bounced into the kitchen. "Morning, lover. How are you?" Oh my, I have a head on me again. Got anything I can take for it?" She tossed some headache remedy at me as I sipped my coffee. She seemed quiet. I saw her phone on the kitchen table and wondered if she had been called by anyone. Claire saw me looking at her phone. I could tell she wanted to reach for it, but it would have seemed odd. I poured some more orange juice and casually picked it up. I saw a look of panic flash across her face, so she had gotten a message somehow. I just looked at it quickly before sliding it across to her. "Needs charging, love. Don't want a flat battery to stop any messages getting through." I walked out of the kitchen and went to get dressed. Claire looked after me like she knew something was going on. Rick hadn't texted her this morning like he had been doing for the past couple of weeks. He couldn't know, could he? She dismissed the thought. No chance. She had been so careful. It had only been going on a few weeks. It was a few lunches, dinner 2, 3 times, and, of course, the hotel. That was 3 times as well. It was nothing much, really, she thought. Just some harmless fun. And Jack would never know. He wasn't going without, was he? That suddenly made her think. When was the last time she had sex with her husband? Oh my, she couldn't remember. Maybe that was it. She needed to do something about that, and fast. She had been so wrapped up with Rick that she had missed what was in front of her, the one sure thing that would make Jack suspicious. I bowled down the stairs and almost flew out the door as Claire tried in vain to grab me for a deeper kiss than normal. I was not having any of that. I waved and smiled as I pulled out of the drive and cruised to work. Around 11 a.m., I thought I would send Claire a text, just for fun. Sorry about today, a lot on my mind, but it will soon be resolved. Love you. I settled back, waiting for something to happen. Just after lunch, Sarah called in to see me. Jack, what the hell happened? What are you on about, Sarah? Rick Stone was found in the trunk of his car, battered by one of the golf club employees earlier today. Claire told me about it. She is in bits over it. She is really rattled. I told her that these things sometimes happen nowadays, and it is awful when it is someone we know, but not to read too much into it. You did it, didn't you? Oh my, was he badly hurt? I can't say I care too much either way, but no, I didn't lay a finger on him. Well, he is just beat up a bit. A few cuts and bruises, I hear, but nothing broken, it seems. Did you ask how she found out? Yes. She said she had a meeting arranged with him today, and his company called saying he was in hospital. His wife had rung them. That's very cute. Plausible too, but cute. Maybe next time it won't be so easy for them all. What do you mean, Jack? Accidents happen in the strangest places. That night when I got home, Claire wasn't indoors. Her car was gone, no message. I called her phone. Where are you, love? I asked cheerily. Oh, I'm at the hospital visiting a friend. Won't be long, just on my way now. Okay, well, I hope she is on the mend. Anyway, see you soon, love. Love you. Bye. I clicked the phone off before she could reply. 30 minutes later, she arrived home. Her face looked gray and haggard. How is your friend? I hope it's nothing too serious and she will be out of there soon. Claire looked at me as if she wanted to say something but thought better of it. Oh, yes, it's nothing too dramatic. She just fell and ended up with some nasty bruising. We'll be home in a few days. That's good. Coffee? Yes, thanks. Claire looked at me as she sipped her coffee. One of my company's reps was assaulted the other night. She left the statement hanging, looking for a reaction. Oh my, really? What happened? He was beaten and left in his car overnight. Oh dear, that's terrible. I hope the police catch whoever did that. Is he okay? Yes, he is, thankfully. Rick wasn't hurt too badly, just seems like they wanted to beat him up for no reason. Nothing was stolen or anything. Strike 4. That's the Rick you said you didn't know about. She saw me looking at her and knew she had slipped up. She tried to cover it, but she knew it was too late. She also knew now that I knew too. Hastily, she made an exit to get changed. I suspected that she would be on the phone any second now, but who to? I decided that I needed to review my plan as things were moving faster now. I needed to move things along a bit. I called up the stairs to Claire and told her I needed to go out for a little while. Not to worry, I won't be long. I drove to Rick Stone's home address and knocked at the door. The door opened and a petite, dark-haired woman stood in front of me. Mrs. Stone, you don't know me, but I have something to tell you that is rather delicate in nature. May I come in for a moment? She looked at me, nervous but intrigued at the same time. Cautious. My name is Jack Ryan. My wife is Claire Ryan and she has dealings with your husband. I stopped there as she got a look on her face that emitted realization and dread at the same time. She stood away from the door and ushered me inside to the lounge. I take it this has something to do with the two of them? I could see the pain building in her eyes already. Yes, I am afraid it has. They have been having an affair. I found out a few days ago. I am sorry to have to break this to you. I also know he is currently in hospital. She seemed to fold inwardly. Her head sank to her chest and tears flowed easily for a few seconds. I knew it. I knew he was at it again, she spat. I am going to divorce Claire. She has had enough chances to come clean, and I can't take her lies anymore. I am not too sure how long it has been going on, but I am satisfied she has betrayed me and that I cannot forgive or forget. Does this have anything to do with the beating he took the other night? I looked at her imploring eyes. I quickly decided my course of action. I don't know about that. I didn't lay a finger on him. This has happened so fast for me. I am still in shock myself. Whoever did it is okay with me. Sorry, but that's how I feel. Could he have been playing around with another's wife too? Nothing surprises me. Well, he can keep his sorry butt the other side of my front door. I have had enough of this. That is the reason we moved back here, because he was fooling around. I left her still spitting fire after giving her my locksmith's number and my solicitor too. Damn, what a mess, I thought. I jumped in my car and headed for the hospital, which was only a 10-minute drive. I made it in less. I walked through the entrance hall almost smiling, as if a layer of stress had started to shift from me. I squeezed into the elevator to the 4th-floor ward, where one Mr. Rick Stone was being cared for. I checked the patient board and found him in a side room. Slipping past the unmanned nurses' station, unnoticed, I entered his room and eased the door closed behind me. As I walked in, he looked at me questioningly. I approached his bed, looking at his bandaged face, one eye covered, the other bloodshot, peering at me, trying to focus. Jerry did a real good job, I thought as I looked him over. You look as if you don't recognize me, Rick. Think a little. I will give you time. I smiled at him as he eyed me comically. I sat at the side of his bed as he peered at me through the bandages on his face. I could only see the one very black and swollen eye. It sounded like there was a problem with his jaw, too. Never mind. I looked at the raised bedclothes, keeping the weight of his nether regions. Oh my, that looks nasty. Painful, is it? As I slid the emergency cord away from him, tossing it under the bed, I poked him in the ribs. He squealed like a little pig. So, you thought who I might be yet, Rick? Want a clue? Still, the confused look on the half-face in the bed. Let me see. Oh yes, this might help. How about you think of all the married women you have screwed and how many marriages you have ruined? That a good enough starting point? His eye looked at me. I could tell there was activity in his head as he tried to put the pieces together. Another minute passed as I waited, wanting to savor his pain and confusion. Another clue, Ricky boy, try this. I am married to a woman called Claire. Any good? I saw the light bulb moment as he realized who I was. There you go, got it, yes? I smiled like a tiger does before lunch. He nodded slowly. I am glad we have that sorted out now, but you are wondering why I am here, aren't you? Yes, of course you are. Well, I came to pass on a message from your wife. I paused and waited until he understood, and then made a guttural noise. His throat had been damaged, it seemed, so he was unable to speak very clearly at all. Never mind, she asked me to tell you to screw off. That clear enough for you? Screw off, don't come back. Divorce is in the post. Oh, and by the way, screw you. I saw a tear run from the one eye I could see. I started to laugh. He couldn't move. I laughed some more as I watched him struggle. I leaned over him and stared into his one eye. I am divorcing that wife of mine because she screwed a low-life maggot like you, and this is just the start for you, my friend. We will meet again many more times, too. Of that, you may rest assured. I will ruin your life as you have mine. I will never stop, so start running. Oh, and by the way, I didn't do this to you, just so you know. I wanted him to wonder who. I raised my fist as he watched and rammed it hard into his one uncovered eye. I felt something give. Never mind. Then another swift punch to the balls. He screamed and then passed out. I stood and left the ward, satisfied. Not in the slightest, but it was a start. He could lay there knowing he was screwed up and there was nothing he could do about it. No one saw me leave. If they had, they would have seen a broad smile across my face. I drove slowly towards home to deal with the other half of my problem. Now my inner rage under control, as once retribution was started, it was just a course of action that would run its course, one I would follow and relish for the most part. I was sad at the end of my marriage, but as much as it pained me at the moment, I know there was never any going back from her betrayal. My one consolation was that the parties that had caused me pain would have that visited upon them in far greater measure. I do not forgive. Rick Stone had his card marked. We would meet again. I eased my car onto my driveway. Claire's car was parked where she left it not more than 2 hours ago. I tapped the bonnet absent-mindedly as I passed it on the way to my front door. I pushed my key into the lock. As I did so, I thought, this could be the last time I do this as a married man. My heart suddenly felt leaden as I stepped inside. It was as if all the worries of the past days suddenly became real and incredibly heavy on my shoulders as I walked slowly towards the lounge. I could hear the television murmuring in the corner of the room. I stood at the door staring at her. Claire sat perched on the sofa. Her demeanor was of fear and trepidation, as if waiting for the axe to fall. She had the sense that something was not right. It was as if the game was up, yet nothing had been said. She shook with nervousness as she tried to remain calm. I stood watching her. She looked up and I saw the fear in her eyes, her mouth trying to utter something, but nothing came out. I walked into the room and then past her as I made myself a drink. I placed my glass containing a large JD on the rocks on the coffee table between us as I sat down, my eyes looking at her, taking in her fear, and I detected a shred of defiance too, maybe. I didn't say anything as I reached for my drink and slowly took a sip, the liquor warming the back of my throat as it slid down, my eyes unblinking, boring into hers. She was waiting. Let her wait, I thought as I took another sip. Still silence. My face was expressionless as I watched the woman who I had loved so deeply stare back at me, my heart still filled with deep feelings for her, but now balanced with a pain that she had inflicted on me without due cause or reason. Now she would be starting to feel my pain too. I stared at her. She saw nothing in my face to give her any reason for optimism. So much was being said already between us without any words whatsoever. Claire seemed to pull herself together and straightened herself up as she obviously decided to brazen it out. She had no idea what I knew, and she couldn't stand the incriminating silence any longer. "Where were you?" Her eyes gave away her concern as I sat motionless, silent. "Talk to me, damn it," she rattled. I took another slow pull on my JD. I do love a JD after a busy day, I thought, as I watched her getting more stressed. "What is wrong with you, Jack?" she hissed, getting angry at my silent treatment of her. "Okay, Claire, I will tell you where I went as long as you tell me where you have been. Deal?" She looked at me unsure and wary as her mind started working faster, like two prize fighters weighing each other up, not sure who will make the first move, wary of the counterpunch. "I told you I was at the hospital visiting a friend. What is all this about?" She sat back, arms folded, satisfied with her opening shot. I took another slow pull on my JD. Dear, I just knew you would say that. Want to take another try at that?" She watched my deadpan delivery and I saw fear flash across her eyes. She was rattled now. "I was with my friend, like I said. What is wrong with you?" Again she thought she had batted off the question and deflected it back on me. "Okay, Claire, enough of this nonsense. I will tell you where I went, shall I? It will make things easier for you to understand where we are going with this. I have been to see a friend myself. Not known her for very long, but what I had to say to her was really very important. I haven't even met her before, but I can say we are friends of sorts now." I watched her face closely. She was trying to pull it together, I could tell, but as she stuck her chin out, her defiance was a giveaway. "I had an enlightening talk with her about her husband, Rick Stone. You may have heard of him." I saw the veil start to slip. It seems her husband has had an accident and finds himself in hospital. Nothing too serious, just some rather nasty bruising, really. So he will live, so that's good, isn't it? Claire's face flushed as she could feel the net closing around her as I toyed with her. "Well, what did you have to talk to this Stone woman about?" Claire asked, knowing the answer but dreading hearing it from my lips. "It seems her husband is a serial philanderer, a sex hound, cheater, or whatever you call it. Anyway, I found out he was cheating on her and felt she had a right to know about it." "Oh my God!" she gasped, feeling the tightness of what felt like a noose around her throat. "Are you okay, sweetie? Can I get you a drink? Do you know anything about Rick Stone's affairs, my love?" I sipped my drink as she tried to find words. Her mouth wasn't cooperating, and nothing was coming out. "Let me help you here." I stared into her eyes, wanting her to see my innermost feelings. Now I know it all. Her eyes went wide, her hand went to her mouth as the realization hit her hard. I watched her face as she stared back at me, shock, disbelief, all of that and more, as she sought some reassurance but saw none in my face. "I know about you and Rick. I have known for a while, not long but long enough. So if you have anything to say, I suggest you do it now before you never get the chance ever again." I emptied my glass and stood to pour another. "Sure you won't have one?" I asked, a lot calmer than I actually felt given the circumstances. She nodded. I poured us both large ones and sat back opposite her. Claire took a large gulp and then looked at me. It didn't mean anything, you know. It was just sex. It was just sex, of course it was. Didn't mean anything at all, did it? Are we forgetting the vows we both took? I could feel my anger simmering now as she mentioned the cheater's cliché. But it was just sex, Jack. It just happened. Oh, it just happened. You stupid, it never just happens. Two people decide to have sex. They plan and agree to get their clothes off and screw each other senseless. They don't accidentally get naked and fall on each other, and the world does not shake for them to do the deed. So don't treat me like a fool. You and Rick, darling, already made me a cuck for a few weeks or maybe months, but no more. It was only twice, and it wasn't that great either. Yes, the thought of it was exciting, but doing it was no fun at all as I was constantly worried you might find out. Well, do you think I care if you liked it? Do you think I care if you were worried that you would get caught? Do you think I even care if you had your climax? Newsflash, I don't care. Besides, I did find out, so I hope it was worth our marriage. Jack, I am sorry, really sorry. It didn't mean anything. We can get through this. I will make it up to you, and I will do anything you say. I heard myself laughing loudly, too maniacally, as she stared at me, the thought just registering in her mind that this could be serious, finally hitting her. It was a mistake. We can get around this. I am sorry. I will do anything to make it right. I'll be the best wife from now on. Make it right? Turn back time and undo what you did, can you? You are not sorry that you had sex with that maggot. You are sorry you got caught. Would you have stopped if you hadn't been caught out? I think not. All the old clichés fall so easily from a cheater's lips, just like all the lies you have told me and others since this began. It becomes second nature. The only person swallowing your lies here is you. To be honest, you are not the woman I fell in love with and married. I don't recognize you now. You're just a cheap street hooker. She looked at me as the words and the depth of my hurt started to permeate her cheater's fag-sade. This was serious. What can I do, Jack? I will do anything. Nothing, unless you can make a time machine. We're done. While I was out, I called Sarah. She knows too, by the way. She will be here in a few minutes to pick you up. But where will I go? Are you throwing me out? She looked at me as the shock set in. You can go wherever you like, you cheating. Even back to the hospital to see your boyfriend. I don't care. As long as you are gone from here, we are done. I finished my drink and slammed the glass down to emphasize the end of the conversation. Claire sat stunned, looking at me, as there was a knock on the door. I stood and went and greeted Sarah. How did it go? She asked as we stepped into the lounge. She looked at her sister, who was sobbing steadily now, her shoulders shaking. Just get thee out of here, Sarah. Sorry to be blunt, but if she doesn't go, I am afraid she is in for the worst time of her life, so please hurry. Thank you for this, Sarah. I will be in contact soon. I poured another drink as Sarah bustled around, getting Claire's things together. For the next few days, I listened to the sound of my wife sobbing as she watched her sister gather her things and toss them into a couple of suitcases. It took less than 10 minutes to remove her from my home. The longer battle would be to get her out of my life permanently and erase the pain. Retribution will help with that. That was all I had now to look forward to, as well as another stiff JD. I stared into the flames of the pyre I had built in the backyard. Everything of Claire's was now ablaze. There was no way I was allowing her back into my house for anything. Screw you. I finished the bottle and tossed it into the fire. I had her served at her office. I wanted everyone to know she was getting divorced. I called her parents and let them in on what their darling daughter had done and why I was divorcing her. Her mother tried to force me to reconsider. I must add, it did not go well for her, and by the time I hung up on her, I might have caused her a heart attack. My wife knew by then that I was done with her. She did try to meet me multiple times, but I shut her down every time. She never contested the divorce. Sarah later told me that she has been put in counseling and will be there for a while. Sarah and I did go out on a few dates, and yes, we did it a few times, but we both knew it would never work out. As for Rick, he got divorced, and his wife made sure he was drained of every penny he had. Sometimes I do feel for the guy. How does a guy feel with just one ball in the sack? He left the country once he was out of the hospital. I still visit my watering hole, and for the coming few years, I don't plan on any love. Thanks for watching. What would you do if you found out your spouse was cheating with an old flame? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more shocking stories. Sheriff Jack was finally taking control of his life. The one thing he still wanted was to get rid of his cheating wife, Carla. Legally getting rid of her was his top priority, and his plan was now in motion. It was Wednesday afternoon, around 3 p.m. Things around any government office seemed to be fairly calm at that time of day, and the offices at the Oakwood County Sheriff's Department were no exception. Shift change had come and gone at 2 p.m., and most of the staff who worked regular office hours had left early, using some unused comp time. My captain, Chief Deputy Bobby Lopez, had left at noon that day to take his family on a mini vacation to Crestwood for the weekend. As for me, I was anxiously awaiting the return of my day shift Lieutenant Deputy Mike Carter from an important assignment that I had given him earlier in the week. My name is Jack Turner, but everyone calls me Jack. I am the newly elected and sworn sheriff of Oakwood County. This particular day ended my first official week of office since I was sworn in last Tuesday morning. I had given Mike Carter the assignment just after my swearing-in ceremony and initially planned to have him execute that assignment later that day, but I had a change of heart and decided to have him wait until this afternoon to carry it out. Part of the duties of lieutenants is to serve warrants, notices, and official papers to individuals when requested to do so. It costs members of the general public $100 to have the sheriff's office serve official papers. For me, it was money well spent, so I had given my good lieutenant the task of serving my soon-to-be ex-wife Carla with divorce papers this afternoon. Hence, I was sitting in my office eagerly awaiting his arrival to see how it went. At approximately 3:10 p.m., a very pissed-off Lieutenant Mike Carter blew into my office. "The next time you decide to get divorced, Jack, you can serve those damn papers yourself." "I take it the process serving didn't go so well," I chuckled. "Look at me, Jack," Mike said, gesturing to the right side of his face. The entire cheek and right ear were beet red. "That bitch slapped me right across the face." "She what?" I couldn't believe what I just heard. I didn't stutter. I served her the damn papers, and she slapped me right across the face. "Oh my God," I burst out laughing. "That is the most fantastic thing I ever heard. Please, for the love of God, tell me you are not joking." "Hell no, I'm not joking," he said, taking a seat in front of my desk. She came to the door, and I politely asked her if she was Carla Jane Turner. She said yes. I said, "Carla Jane Turner, you have been served." She totally freaked out, got into a big argument with me, started bawling her damned head off, and finished it off with a haymaker right across my right cheek and ear. You know how damn bad it hurts to get slapped on the ear, Jack? It hurts like hell, even when it's from a woman. I'm sorry, I said, trying to stop myself from laughing. "I'm not laughing about you getting slapped. I'm laughing at that bitch for losing her cool like that." Then the ultimate thought occurred to me. "Oh my God, please, 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 for the love of God, tell me that you were wearing your lapel camera when all of this was going on. Please tell me you were smart enough to have it on when all of this went down." "What, the lapel cam? Of course I had it on. How stupid do I—" "Oh, right, I get it now," Mike understood. This past summer and fall, I had basically served as interim sheriff while my predecessor, William Bud Roberts, was a lame duck and absentee sheriff. So not only was I running a campaign to succeed Bud as sheriff, but I was also running the day-to-day operations of the entire department. One of the best moves I made was using some seized and forfeited narcotics money to purchase body cameras for every deputy in the department. The cameras were attached to the shoulder lapels of the uniform and provided high-definition 1080p resolution video and crystal-clear audio that recorded any type of event the deputy might encounter. The video was recorded via a Bluetooth feed to the onboard video recorder that also recorded video and audio from the deputy's cruiser's dash camera. Every department that has implemented the use of these cameras has seen a massive drop in the number of complaints filed by citizens of the public who tried to accuse us of harassment or excessive use of force. Actually, the complaints were still filed, but usually withdrawn once the person or their family saw the video of the event. The cameras were only about half the size of the palm of your hand. My deputies initially had mixed emotions about the cameras. On one hand, they kind of felt like Big Brother was keeping an eye on them. But already the video had corroborated no less than 6 of my deputies' accounts of various incidents that had resulted in complaints from citizens. All 6 complaints were withdrawn when the parties and their attorneys, of course, had a chance to see the video. I was absolutely giddy and couldn't wait to see the video. Hopefully it would give me all the evidence and momentum I needed to implement my plans to divorce my cheating wife and dictate the divorce on my terms. Mike retrieved the video data from his cruiser and downloaded it onto my laptop. The video started with Mike casually walking toward the steps leading up to the front porch of my farmhouse. He rang the doorbell twice before Carla finally appeared. When she did, you could clearly see the shocked look on her face at seeing a deputy at her door. "Yes, may I help you?" she asked. "Are you Carla Jane Turner?" Mike asked. "Oh, come on, you know I am. What is this about?" "Mom, I'm Deputy Lieutenant Mike Carter," he said, handing her the manila envelope. "Mrs. Turner, you have been officially served." "What? Are you kidding me?" "No, Mom, you have been served." "Oh my God, I can't believe this. I cannot believe that gutless son of a bitch would send one of his deputies to do this." "Good afternoon, Mom," Mike said, turning and walking back to his cruiser. "Hey, damn it!" Carla proceeded to half-shove, half-punch Mike in the back. "I'm not finished with you. You tell that asshole that he better be home in time for dinner. I do not accept this. Tell him to get his ass home so we can talk this over. Ma'am, you need to calm down. I will not tolerate you touching me in an aggressive manner." Mike was trying very hard to keep his cool. "Or what? What the hell are you going to do about it? You're just a peon deputy. You're nobody. Ma'am, I'm warning you. You need to step back and calm down." "Oh, now you're trying to tell me what to do? You don't tell me to do a damn thing. I'm still the wife of the sheriff, you prick." She proceeded to walk towards him, waving the manila envelope at him as though she was threatening to hit him with it. "You tell Jack that he better have his ass home by 6:00. He better not be going to his little bitch house on the north side." "Ma'am, calm down now." Mike reached forward and put his hand on her shoulder to get her to stop approaching him. Instead of calming her, it sent Carla into full nuclear meltdown mode. "Get your hands off me, you prick!" she screamed, batting his hand away. "You don't ever touch me!" And with that whack, Carla slapped poor Mike right across the right side of his face. "And tell that jerk to get his ass home right now," she screamed, turning and stomping back towards the house. "Oh my God, that was awesome," I said, bursting into hysterical laughter again. "But Jesus, Mike, why didn't you arrest her right on the spot?" "Truthfully," Mike said, "I was too damn stunned to know what to do. I wasn't sure if I should haul her off in cuffs or just let you deal with the dumb skank, so I came back here and decided to dump the ball in your lap." "Oh no, absolutely not," I chided. "You're going to go back out there and arrest her for assaulting a law enforcement officer. That's what you're going to do." "Are you kidding me, Jack? You're seriously going to plop me in the middle of this?" "Dude, you're already neck-deep in it. Besides, wouldn't you like a little payback? Don't you think it would feel great to be the one to haul her off to jail, book her in, take her mugshot? In other words, to humiliate the living shit out of her for slapping you across the face?" Mike thought for a moment and sighed. "You do make an appealing argument. I'll give you that. But I'm not going alone. If she pisses me off any more than she already has, I'm liable to tase the living shit out of her and probably electrocute her. I can't help but think that would be something of a black mark on my stellar law enforcement record if I fried the wife of a sitting sheriff." "Uh-huh. You do realize this is probably going to be in the newspaper and on TV, right?" "Don't worry about that. I'll handle that. And she's not going to be able to stay here, you know. Our jail's full. She's going to have to go to Hilltop County tonight, and that's a 2-hour van ride. Not our problem. She made the bed in more ways than one, and now she gets to lie in it." "So you sending someone with me or what?" Mike asked. "Who's the lieutenant on duty right now?" I asked. "Angela Matthews." "Perfect. Have Angela and one of her deputies meet up with you. Make a nice little show of force out of it. Isn't this going to freak out your kids, though, Jack?" "Nah. They're spending the weekend with the youth group from St. Paul's. They're headed over to Crestwood to stay at a hotel with an indoor water park and mess around at the mall. Probably spend most of their weekend in the pool or at the amusement park." "I thought they call it Nickelodeon Universe now," Mike said, grabbing his hat. "Yeah, I think you're right. But everybody I know still calls the place Snoopy. All right, Jack, I guess it's time to go arrest your stupid wife. Good luck. Call me when you're done." Needless to say, Carla's arrest did not go well. At least not for Carla anyway. She threw such a fit that she nearly got herself an additional charge of resisting arrest. The video showed Lieutenant Angela Matthews, who was a pint-sized dynamo at only 53 tall, literally throwing Carla down on our front porch while another deputy, Brad Lowe, slapped the cuffs on her and read Carla her rights. Carla was hysterically crying and shouting at Brad, Angela, and Mike the entire time, and threatening to sue them for false arrest, excessive force, and anything else she could think of. But it was all caught on video in 1080p glory and perfect audio that caught every swear word, sneeze, and sniffle. Add in the video of her getting served my papers for good measure, and there wasn't a judge anywhere who would determine that the three deputies handled themselves with anything but the utmost professionalism the entire time. By 5:30 p.m., Carla was photographed, booked, fingerprinted, and processed into the Oakwood County Jail. By 6:00 p.m., she was dressed in a set of red and white striped prison clothes with a pair of matching red Croc shoes. She was crying hysterically as she was led to the van that would transport her nearly 2 hours south to the Hilltop County Jail that is located just outside the town of Riverbend. The Hilltop County Jail is capable of holding 240 prisoners, while our own jail could only hold a maximum of 40. And a full house meant our jail was literally busting at the seams. It was a situation I was determined to correct as sheriff and one of my top priorities. As there is no magistrate judge working on the weekend except in cases to authorize emergency warrants, Carla would now have the better part of the next 72 hours to sit and think about what she had done. A brief phone call to my counterpart in Hilltop County, Sheriff Garrett Myers, ensured that Carla would have a prison cell all her own and away from any other inmates who might try to harm her while she was there. Sheriff Myers would also make sure that his correction officers would keep a very close eye on Carla and maintain strict confidence. She would be processed into their jail under an alias, so no one would know she was there or who she was. Mike Carter sent me a picture message on my smartphone of Carla's booking photo. It was pathetic in every way imaginable. She was still a very pretty woman in all physical respects, but the photo was not of a young, vibrant, or confident woman. It was a photo of a woman who had hit rock bottom and was now beginning to truly understand the consequences of her actions over the past 2+ years. Her eyes carried the terror and fears of all humanity, and her face carried the expression of the hopeless and destitute. In reality, her face reminded me of so many of the mugshots of the millions of women and men who had been processed into the thousands of jails across our country throughout history. Carla never wore the look of a criminal a day in her life, but I couldn't help but notice how the booking photo instantly branded her with the image of a common crook. Ironically, the photo in all its bleakness also came to match the image in my mind of the woman that Carla had become ever since the start of her affair with Bud Roberts. It's funny how a simple photo can remind us that the line between the cream of society and the scourge of society is a thin one indeed. I had been planning to spend most of the weekend with my new fiancée, Shannon Sullivan, and her amazing daughter, Bridget. Following the incident with Carla's arrest, I had to stop out at the acreage to feed the horses and take care of a few other odds and ends. I didn't end up getting to Shannon's until shortly after 6:30 p.m., about the same time that Mike Carter texted me Carla's booking photo. I let myself in the front door of Shannon's small but cozy home and was greeted with a smell of a home-cooked meal that reminded me instantly of so many meals made by my dear grandmother. Shannon and Bridget had just arrived home shortly before I did, as Shannon's nursing shift in the ICU at Holy Family Medical Center didn't end until 6:00 p.m., after which she had to pick up Bridget from a friend's house where she went after school on the day Shannon had to work. "Jack!" shouted Bridget as she sprinted towards me from the kitchen. "Hey, Bridget," I said, scooping her up for a big hug. "How are my two favorite girls in the whole wide world?" "Great. I've been waiting all day to see you, Jack. Want to see my bug collection?" "I would love to, sweetheart. But why are you collecting bugs in the middle of winter?" "Me and Mom caught the bugs last fall, silly. Her teacher kept all the kids' bugs on display and finally sent them home today," Shannon explained as she moved in for a kiss. Her voice softened to a sultry tone as she smiled and said, "How are you, handsome?" "Much better now," I said after the mouth-watering kiss. "Bad day at work?" "I'll explain after supper," she said with a look of concern. Bridget spent the next 20 minutes telling me all about her bug collection and her day in school, right up until Shannon put a heaping plate of meatballs and mashed potatoes on the table. I couldn't believe she could whip up such a comforting meal in such short order. Turns out that Shannon likes to make 5 or 6 full meals on the weekend and then put them in the freezer, so all she has to do is take them out and throw them in the oven to warm up. I could only hope to make the sheriff's office run as efficiently as Shannon ran her household. It only reaffirmed that I had indeed picked a winner. After supper, I helped Shannon and Bridget clear the table and did the majority of the dishes, which was the least I could do after a great meal. We played a board game, Bonkers, which Bridget absolutely loves. Then it was time for Bridget to head to bed, and I got to read her a story. Tonight it was The Lorax by Dr. Seuss. With Bridget snuggled into bed, I met Shannon back out in the living room, where she was changed into pajama pants and a Minnesota State sweatshirt and sipping on a glass of juice. "No wine tonight?" I asked. "Not tonight, love. I have to work tomorrow, and I promised Mindy Sutherland that I would be in for her by 6. Mom's coming over early to pick up the munchkin and take her out to the ranch for the day." "I see. I'm sure she'll have a blast. You're more than welcome to help yourself to a glass, though." "I don't mind if I do," I said, heading to the kitchen and pouring myself a large glass of Chardonnay. I'm not enough of a wine connoisseur to know which wine is which and when you're supposed to drink it, whether it is before, during, or after a meal. But the peach Chardonnay Shannon had was good, had alcohol in it, and would suffice just fine for my simple tastes. I sat down next to Shannon on the couch and let out a long sigh, finally letting all the stress of the day and my first week as sheriff off my shoulders. That was the sigh of a man who had a rough day. "I thought everything was going pretty well so far." "It is for the most part," I said as I took a long sip of wine. "This afternoon changed things a bit, however." "How so?" I stared into Shannon's beautiful eyes and said, "I had Mike Carter serve the papers to Carla this afternoon." Shannon tensed up and became very apprehensive. "Oh my God, it finally happened? You're really getting a divorce?" She grasped my left hand and I could feel her trembling. "This is really happening? We're really going to be together?" Tears started forming in her eyes and one streaked down her right cheek. "Yes, we are, babe," I said, squeezing her hand tightly. How did she take it? I sighed deeply and closed my eyes. It was pretty much a train wreck. How so? What happened? You're not going to believe me if I tell you. Jack Turner, don't do that to me. You can't start a story like this and not finish it. That's not fair, she admonished. Okay, you're right. My day shift, Lieutenant Mike Carter, was given the papers to serve this afternoon. When he gave her the papers, Carla totally freaked out on him, called him names, cursed at him, the whole 9 yards, and then, I paused for dramatic effect, she proceeded to slap him right across the face. Shannon gasped in shock. Oh my God, you've got to be kidding. No, I'm not. You should have seen how upset Mike was when he came back. He was absolutely beside himself. What happened next? Well, if you must know, I started, oh, don't tease me. Tell me what happened. I sent Mike back out to the house along with my evening shift Lieutenant Angela Matthews and another deputy by the name of Brad Lowe. I had them arrest Carla for assaulting a law enforcement officer. Another gasp of shock. Oh my God, are you kidding me? What in the world are you thinking? What do you mean, what am I thinking? I said, somewhat taken aback. Carla assaulted one of my deputies. She's no different than anybody else. It was a totally unprovoked attack. I know, but she's still your wife, technically. I mean, I know she's done all sorts of terrible things to you, but arresting her? This isn't payback for all the shit that she, Bud, and Marion Lawson did. This is a direct result of her getting pissed off to the point that she lashed out at one of my deputies to try and get to me. Regardless of how she or I feel about everything, there is no excuse for her to hit one of my deputies. I also have to let Mike and my deputies know that I won't tolerate any type of abuse from them or upon them. I know, Shannon said, calming somewhat. The whole thing is just so shocking that I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around everything that is happening. I know, babe, I know, I said, squeezing her hand tightly. So how do you think this is going to affect everything? Well, I said, contemplating, the only thing I can think of is maybe this will make Carla more accepting of the divorce. Maybe with this little turn of events, I can use it to get her to see reason as far as an amicable divorce is concerned. Again, a look of shock came over Shannon's face. Oh my gosh, Jack. I don't mean to sound like an unsupportive bitch, but is that why you had her arrested? To strong-arm her in your divorce? No, I said emphatically, shaking my head. Absolutely not. You can get that thought out of your head right now. I would never do something like that. Doing that would bring me down to her and Bud Roberts' level. Make no mistake about it. Carla broke the law when she assaulted one of my deputies. That is the reason that she is spending the weekend in jail. I'll do my very best to help her out of this situation in the best shape possible legally, but I would be lying if I said that I wasn't going to use it to help you and me get our life started together on the best foot possible. And if that can happen by using her arrest to smooth out the path to an amicable divorce, then so be it. I promise you that I'm not going to use it to try and screw over Carla in the divorce itself, only to get her to see reason and not fight the inevitable and help make it as easy on the boys as possible. You're right, Jack. I should know better. You're not that kind of person. I'm so sorry I brought it up. Shannon leaned over and kissed me as an apology. Don't be, I said. I'm counting on you to help keep me grounded. This job obviously went to Bud Roberts' head, and I'm counting on you to be my anchor, babe. Well, Shannon said, sporting a mischievous grin and setting my wine glass on the table. I don't know much about dropping anchors, but I'd sure appreciate it if you took me to bed and, shall we say, docked your ship in my little port. I started chuckling uncontrollably. What did you just say, love? Damn it, Jack, I'm trying to talk sexy and drop a little innuendo. Hey, I like some dirty talk as much as the next guy, but you're going to have to do better than that. Shannon just stood up and proceeded to seductively strip off her Minnesota State sweatshirt and the skimpy little shirt that she had on underneath. Shannon proceeded to lean in and rub her spectacular cleavage all the way from my crotch, up my abdomen and chest, and then up my neck and face before ending the exotic maneuver with a kiss that could melt titanium. So, Sheriff, she cooed to me after another mind-blowing kiss, are you going to screw me or what? Oh, you better believe I am, I said as she led me by the hand towards her bedroom. The next 2 hours were nothing but a blur of awesome. Shannon left for work shortly after 4:45 the next morning, but not before we had one more speedy and frantic round of sex. I couldn't help but think incredibly erotic thoughts of her as she didn't even bother to shower before leaving and wore the musk of Sheriff Jack Turner on her all day as she worked. Of course, to any normal man, you couldn't tell the difference. A bit of deodorant and a fresh change of clothes will do the trick for us most of the time, and Shannon was a natural beauty for whom makeup wasn't a necessity anyway. I ducked out of the house just after Shannon's mother, Suzanne, arrived to stay with Bridget until she got up out of bed. I returned to the farm to take care of some chores and plan out what I was going to do the rest of the day. My attorney in the divorce was a wildcat by the name of Danielle Nichols. She was by far the most feared divorce attorney in town, and was almost certainly the one that Carla would have gone for if I hadn't gotten to Danielle first. I know this because Carla actually called Danielle shortly after I had already hired her, as Carla wanted to have a lawyer ready just in case she couldn't talk me out of a divorce. All of that took place last fall, even before I had Carla served with the papers. Danielle was in her office at Brown, Graham, Norris, Slater, and Nichols, even though the firm itself was closed for the weekend. I had figured a heads-up call to Danielle was in order, considering the events of the previous afternoon. Much as you would expect, Danielle was absolutely foaming at the mouth over what she could do to Carla in divorce proceedings after she was stupid enough to slap one of my deputies. Looking into the eyes of Danielle Nichols, Esquire, was almost like looking into the eyes of Satan himself. I could only be glad that she was on my side. Danielle was beautiful in a way, but also gave off the vibe of a black widow spider that would probably kill you and eat you once the copulating was over with. But nonetheless, I figured I'd probably have screwed her anyway if I was still single, just because I'm kind of stupid like that, and I tend to think with my Johnny more than I should. I was about 15 minutes into our consultation when my cell phone rang. It was a number that I probably shouldn't have had in my phone, but one that I had programmed in nevertheless. The caller ID said, "Caroline Bennett." "Hello, Caroline," I said upon answering. "Jack, thank God I was able to reach you. Can you please tell me what is going on with Carla? She called me this morning and told me she was in prison in Riverbend and that you were responsible for putting her there." "Excuse me," I said to Danielle, covering the phone with both hands. "I need to take this call. I'll be just a few minutes. I'm sorry." "No, don't be sorry," Danielle said. "Feel free to stay here. I'm going to run to the break room and see if we have any coffee in this damn place." Once Danielle had left the room, I continued. "Well, Caroline, the truth is that Carla is indeed in prison down in Riverbend. There was no room for additional prisoners here in Oakwood County, so she was sent to another facility. My God, Jack, what could she have done that justified you putting her in jail?" "Caroline, at a risk to our very special friendship, let me be perfectly clear. I did not have Carla incarcerated out of any sort of malice. I followed the procedures of filing divorce papers and utilizing the sheriff's department to do so. I paid the appropriate fee and everything, just like any normal citizen would. I did so to avoid what I felt would be a certain and ugly confrontation between Carla and me. Instead, Carla initiated an altercation with one of my deputies, during which she became aggressive, belligerent, and slapped my deputy in the face. No, Jack, you're wrong. Carla can be hot-headed sometimes, okay? Maybe a lot of times. But my daughter would never willfully strike an officer of the law. I simply can't believe it. Your officer must be mistaken or blowing things way out of proportion." "I hate to tell you this, Caroline," I said, sighing, "but the entire incident was caught on video. Cameras and pictures don't tell the whole story, Jack. True, but in this instance, it is pretty cut and dried. All of my deputies now wear small cameras on their person that record everything in high definition. In this particular case, there might as well have been a TV camera crew there filming it, because there isn't much of a difference. You'll understand if and when you see the video, Caroline." I could hear Caroline sniffing and trying to stifle her own crying. "Please, Jack, if it means anything to you, please promise me that you'll do what you can to help her. Please, for her sake and for the sake of my grandsons." "Caroline," I said, "you have every assurance of mine that I will do what I can to help her. I promise you that I'll be seeing her here shortly, and I assure you that I will have her out on bail no later than first thing Monday morning. And I also feel confident that this weekend will be the last time she sees the inside of a prison cell." "Thank you, Jack. That means so much to me." "You're quite welcome, Caroline." "Oh, and Jack?" "Yes, Caroline?" She paused. "Never forget how much you mean to me, Jack. I know there is a new love in your life. I can only hope and pray that she treats you the way you deserve to be treated." Now it was my turn to grope for something to say. "I appreciate that, Caroline. And never forget how much you mean to me either. Goodbye, Jack. We'll talk again soon. I'll look forward to it." And then she hung up. I was thinking about what I just promised and how I would do that as Danielle came back into her office carrying 2 cups of fresh, steaming coffee and sat one down on her desk in front of me. I could easily see Danielle as having the potential to have her way with me as well, or any other man for that matter. She was, as she put it, happily divorced. Danielle had previously been married to Carson Brown, who was the Brown of Brown, Graham, Norris, Slater, and Nichols, and who was himself previously happily married to another woman right up until Danielle joined the firm. Danielle was an associate attorney for the firm right up until Carson Brown got divorced. Then she became a partner of the firm shortly after she became Carson Brown's partner in the bedroom. The whole thing was scandalous and delicious from a gossip's point of view, which just reinforces the old saying, there's not much to see in a small town, but what you hear sure makes up for it. Now then, Danielle said as she made herself comfortable again in her high-back chair, let's figure out how we're going to crucify that wife of yours. Danielle thought I was nuts for trying to work out an equitable divorce, as she was fairly positive that she could use Carla's arrest to get me every last thing I could want by hanging the prospect of additional prison time for her. The truth was, all I wanted from Carla was a quick and easy divorce. I simply wanted to split what we had $5,050 and share custody of the boys. I wanted the boys to still have their primary residency with me out at the farm, while Carla could enjoy liberal visitation with them after school and every other weekend, as well as having them with her for a good chunk of the summer months. Personally, I think Danielle just wanted to see Carla squirm like the proverbial worm on a hook. As for me, I was just determined to separate from her while keeping her honor intact, at least in the eyes of our sons. I hoped that would be incentive enough to take the fight out of her. I left Danielle's office just after 9:00 and needed to pay a little visit to another attorney. I drove to the west side of town to a posh little neighborhood called Oak Ridge Heights. It was one of the newer housing developments in Red River Falls and was filled with McMansions of the movers and shakers of Red River Falls. Fox Run Golf and Country Club was incorporated within the development, and nearly every house had course-front property. Most of the residents here could either swim in their pools and then sunbathe in one of the sand traps, completely eliminating the need to ever go to the beach, at least in summertime. 4721 Oak Ridge Drive was the residence of one Marion Lawson Esquire, otherwise known as the Oakwood County Attorney. Needless to say, Marion was not expecting me today. Being the middle of January, it wasn't like I was interrupting his foursome. Marion, it turned out, preferred threesomes, especially with my wife and Bud Roberts. He also had a penchant for Asian girls, but that was a secret between just me and Marion, although it could easily be revealed to the world if he ever pissed me off. I walked up to the front of the stately brick home and rang the doorbell. Marion himself appeared within a few moments. "Jesus," he said upon seeing me, "and here my weekend was going so well. Nice to see you too, Marion." Lawson just stood there with the door ajar. "Well, aren't you going to invite me in?" "Not unless I have a good reason," he grunted. "Oh, I have business to discuss, I assure you. Does this pertain to me in any way, shape, or form?" "Marion," I said with a bit of an edge in my voice, "everything I do pertains to you in some way." Lawson just rolled his eyes and opened the door to allow me in. "My study is inside and to the left, and take your damn shoes off so you don't screw up my hardwood floors. We just had them stripped, stained, and coated. Ooh, it's almost like we're going to hang out for a while. Don't get any ideas. You're not staying long enough to watch the playoffs, and every beer in the fridge has the name Marion on it, not Jack. Doesn't matter. The Vikes got eliminated a long time ago. Pat, the Vikes got eliminated after the preseason, for God's sake," he grumbled. "How can you stand to watch those losers?" Hey now. To hate my team is to hate me," I replied. "Do you really want me to reply to that, Jack?" "Probably not," I agreed. We entered the house and headed for Marion's office when his wife, Patty, spotted us from the massive open kitchen. Whatever she was cooking smelled fantastic, and my grumbling stomach reminded me I hadn't eaten yet. "Oh, hello, Sheriff. What brings you by today?" Patty called from the kitchen. I couldn't answer before Marion interrupted. "He's not staying long and will be in the study. We've got some important business, so make sure we're not disturbed." Patty looked absolutely crestfallen at her husband's rebuke, but she brightened up again when I said, "Lovely to see you again, Patty. Whatever you're cooking smells absolutely delicious. Thanks, Jack. We'd love to have you join us for dinner sometime, and I'd love to join you sometime. I promise to bring my fiancée GCE, plenty of bad jokes, and a big appetite. Patty started laughing, and Marion practically yanked me into his office and shut the door behind us and locked it. "You're not coming over for dinner, by the way," he chided as he directed me to a chair in front of his ostentatiously huge oak desk. "But Patty just invited me, Marion. It'd be rude to turn her down." Marion gave me an exasperated look as he sat in an equally gaudy chair. "Did you come over here just to piss me off, Jack? Or did you actually have something you wanted to talk to me about? Tell Patty she doesn't have to go overboard. I'm a simple man with simple tastes. Damn it, Sheriff, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and gravy. Comfort food always sits well with me, especially in wintertime. I bet Patty could work magic with that. Her cooking definitely seems to help you keep your girlish figure, Marion," I chuckled. "I'm warning you, Jack. My deputies arrested my wife last evening. Lawson's jaw damn near dropped to the floor. What, are you kidding me? No, I'm not. She was served with divorce papers yesterday, and she assaulted one of my deputies." Lawson gawked at me wide-eyed. "You know, Phil Robertson said it best, you're a special kind of stupid, aren't you, Jack? I mean, my God, who the hell did the people of this county elect sheriff? They elected someone who doesn't feel that they or their families are above the law. What did she do, bump into him as he was walking by? No, she got pissed off, took it out on my deputy, and slapped him right across his face. We've got it all on video." "Who?" Lawson asked, confused. "Who was the deputy that served her? Lieutenant Mike Carter." "Oh, Jesus," Lawson said, making a sour face and shaking his head. "Figures. If that idiot isn't doing something right this minute that deserves a slap in the face, then the smart money says it's just a matter of time before he does. Probably getting slapped right now by that tatted-up druggie of a girlfriend of his." I shifted in my seat as I prepared to defend Mike and Tanya. "I assure you that Lieutenant Carter is not an idiot, and his new wife isn't either. In fact, she's probably got the highest IQ in Oakwood County, and the only thing she has ever had on her record is a simple misdemeanor possession charge from the state of Massachusetts. Are you kidding me? You let your goddamn deputy marry that? I happen to know for a fact that she sells a shitload of pot out of that store of hers on the North End. Fixing and selling computers and old records doesn't pay the bills for that place, you know." "Actually, it does, Marion," I corrected. "It is true that Tanya still fixes, upgrades, and sells computers and old records, but she has also taken on several contracts around town under my recommendation that have her working as a network administrator and analyst for a number of businesses. Every single client of hers absolutely raves about her work. She pretty much puts every other IT guy in Red River Falls to shame. I swear to God, Jack, if I find out you're covering up any illegal activity for her—" "Ill what?" I interrupted. "Don't forget that I happen to know what kind of shit you've got on your home computer, Marion," I scolded, reminding him of the things he still possessed on his computer. Marion stopped dead in his tracks. After a few tense moments, he said, "You didn't come here to talk about Carter and his floozy. What is it that you want, Jack? As I told you, my wife is in prison for assaulting Carter. I want you to hold off on filing any charges until I tell you to. That's my prerogative, Jack. I make that call, not you. No, you don't. Need I remind you of your nasty little hobby?" "Jack," Lawson groaned, "you know I am the goddamn county attorney. At some point, you're going to have to drop that and let me do my job. I understand that, but not yet. Just hold off on the charges until I tell you to. If anybody asks you about it, which they shouldn't, just tell them that there is an ongoing investigation and you'll make a statement to the public when it is completed." "How the hell are you going to keep people from finding out about her?" "She was processed into the Hilltop County Jail under an alias. Garrett Myers is a friend. He's keeping an eye on her." "Myers, the Hilltop County Sheriff? Didn't that old fossil run over a dead body a few months ago?" Yes, he did," I answered sheepishly. "However, in his defense, it was a wreck in the far west part of his county during a really shitty snowstorm, and the body was almost completely obscured by a snowdrift. The State Patrol should have marked where the body was." "Yeah, I'll bet that was really comforting to the family. I'm sure the poor undertaker that had to take care of the body appreciated that too. Tell me again, how far did he drag the body under his Tahoe before he realized what the hell was going on? Somewhere between 20 and 25 feet. Look, we're getting sidetracked here. Are you going to play ball with me on this or not? Fine, fine, Lawson said, waving me off and rubbing his face. I'll hold off filing any charges. In fact, I'll pretend that I don't know a damn thing about it until late Monday afternoon, or until you decide you want charges pressed. I'm assuming you're doing all of this to manhandle Carla in the divorce? No. Well, not exactly. Okay, I guess a little bit, but just to get her to agree to the divorce itself. The terms I am proposing, not that it's any of your damn business, but the terms I'm offering are pretty damn good. I'm not looking to screw her over. She's still my kid's mom. Jack, Lawson said. He paused for a few moments. May I ask you something personal? Gee, Marion, are we about to have a bonding session? Not hardly, he snickered. Bummer. Oh, well, fire away, I said. What's going to happen with Carla when this is all over with? My eyes narrowed and my stomach tightened. What do you mean? Well, he started, I mean, Carla is going to obviously be single again, and I was sort of maybe wondering if you would have a problem with don't even think about it, I growled. What's the problem, Jack? You're obviously not going to be with her. You can plainly see that my marriage is in the toilet. I promise to treat your boys. I stood up, slammed both hands down on Lawson's desk, stared him right in the eyes, and growled, My boys already have a dad, and my soon-to-be ex-wife is off-limits to you, Marion. Do you understand? Lawson just sighed, put his hands up in surrender, and said, Fine, have it your way. But if I help you with this, I'm going to consider us even, Jack. I want you to get those damned pictures out of that file on my server, and I want those damned hidden photos taken off the internet. Deal? Let me explain something, Marion. You and Bud Roberts used to screw my wife in your little threesomes. You had the audacity to even tell me about it and try to humiliate me over it. Guess what? You and I aren't even. Not by a long shot. We're not going to be even for a very, very long time, if ever. I stood and made my way to the doors to Marion's office and unlocked them. As I turned the handle to let myself out, I looked back at Marion one final time and said, And those pictures stay right where they are. I spent the night out at the farm by myself instead of with Shannon, though I really wanted to stay with her. Who the hell wouldn't want to spend the night making love to that incredible woman and her amazing body? But I decided to spend it by myself and finalize some more details in the plans for my impending divorce. I skipped Sunday Mass the next morning, and by 8:00, I was in my department-issued Ford Explorer. I caught up with U.S. Highway 120 and headed south towards Riverbend. The drive was about 2 hours and was fairly sparsely populated along the way. The road itself was 65 miles per hour, so I made good, steady time. The Hilltop County Jail was located on the north end of Riverbend. It was a newer facility that contained the jail, the sheriff's offices, and even had a courtroom that served as an auxiliary to the ones at the county courthouse. The jail itself was fairly imposing and significantly larger than the one in Oakwood County, which was still perched atop the Oakwood County Courthouse. There was a fairly good-sized exercise yard that was encapsulated inside 3 separate rings of chain-link fence that were each topped off with 3 rows of razor-sharp concertina wire. Woe to anyone who was ever dumb enough to try and climb over the top of that, let alone anyone ballsy enough to have to do it at least 3 times. The Hilltop County Jail was different than the Oakwood County Jail in one other significant respect, and that was the visitation room. Visitors were only allowed in both jails for the lower-risk inmates, but whereas the visitors at the Oakwood County Jail could actually see an inmate face-to-face, visitors at the Hilltop County Jail utilized a video system that would only allow visitors to see inmates on a closed-circuit television screen. The room for visitors was located completely opposite the jail itself, and visitors and inmates would never be closer than 300 feet to one another. However, if you're a sitting sheriff whose wife happens to be incarcerated, and you happen to be friends with the sheriff whose jail you're visiting, exceptions can be made. Hey, Jack! Sheriff Garrett Myers greeted me at his office. He'd been the sheriff of Hilltop County for nearly 20 years. Garrett is in his early 60s, has a full head of perfectly coiffed silver hair, but is still in remarkable shape for his age. How's the first week on the job going? It's going pretty well, Garrett. At least it was until Friday. I'm sure. I want you to know that we've been keeping a close eye on her the entire time she's been here. Nobody knows she's in here either. Nobody came looking for her or has been asking about her. She only made one phone call so far, and I believe that was to her mother. Yeah, I heard from her mother. If you'll follow me, Jack, we'll head right this way. Although normal visitation is done by video only, we have to allow attorneys the opportunity to meet in private with their clients. So we have a secure room down this hall that we'll have you meet your wife in. Thanks, Garrett. I really appreciate this. Happy to help, Jack. And by all means, stay as long as you need to. Thanks again, Sheriff. I was led into a small 8x8 room with a small metal table and 2 metal stools that were all securely fastened to the ground, ostensibly so they could not be thrown by inmates at their attorneys. The room was not wired for sound or with video, so as to maintain attorney-client privilege. I had also secured my personal firearm prior to entering the jail as well, and was also patted down and electronically searched. I was there about 5 minutes before the door opened. I stood up as Carla was brought into the room in full shackles, which included handcuffs, ankle cuffs, and a chain that wrapped around her waist and secured her hands close to her body, as well as linking to the ankle cuffs. The purpose was to make it difficult for inmates to attack the correctional officers, as well as make it almost impossible to run. The tall, athletic African-American female correctional officer led Carla to the stool inside of the table opposite from where I had been sitting. Once seated, her ankle cuffs were secured to a hook on the floor, and her handcuffs were secured to a hook on her side of the table, further restricting her movement. Carla looked like hell, and that was putting it mildly. Her eyes were puffy and bloodshot, and it was clear she had been crying non-stop since she got here. Her hair was tangled and matted, and she was obviously in need of a shower. She wouldn't look at me as she did everything she could to fight and hold back more tears. "How are you, Carla?" It was a stupid question, but the only one I could come up with. "How do you think?" she replied, barely whispering. "I understand how you feel." "No, you don't," she said as she couldn't hold back the tears any longer. "How could you possibly understand? How could you do this to me, Jack?" I leaned in and said, "I didn't do this to you, Carla. You are here because you assaulted one of my deputies." "I'm sorry," she said, wailing and sobbing. "I only got upset because I thought he was there to tell me something bad happened to you." "That's not true, Carla, and you know it. You know exactly what the procedures are in the event of an officer down. Hell, you've been through it before, remember? You knew damned well that Mike Carter wasn't there for that." "I swear to God, Jack, that is what I thought." "I don't care what your deputy told you," she sobbed, still unable to look directly at me. "No, Carla, you didn't. I have the whole thing on video. How could you possibly see anything?" "His car was parked in the driveway, Jack. It's my word against his." "Carla, several months ago we purchased small cameras that the deputies wear on their uniforms, just like their radios. The camera saw and recorded the entire event. Mike Carter approached you, he served you the papers, and then you followed him back towards his car. You deliberately pursued him and were belligerent and provoking him the entire time. He put his arm out to stop you from approaching him, and then you proceeded to use your left hand and slap Mike on the right side of his face. I have the whole thing on my phone. See?" I pulled out my smartphone, which Garrett had allowed me to bring in with me. I pulled up the video clip and started playing it. Carla initially refused to look at my phone, believing until the last possible second that there was no way the whole situation could have been caught on camera. But as soon as she heard the unmistakable and perfectly clear sound of her own voice, she stopped crying immediately and stared blankly at the video, too shocked to say anything. When the video had finished playing, Carla looked away from me again, only this time in shame. "Jack, what's going to happen to me?" "Well," I said, tucking my phone back in my pocket, "that all depends on you. Right now, you're looking at an assault charge. More specifically, assault of a police officer. That is going to be an aggravated misdemeanor. You could theoretically be looking at 2 to 5 years in prison." "Oh my God," she whispered. "Please, please tell me you're going to help me, Jack. I will help you, Carla, but you are also going to help me as well. What do you want me to do? I want you to sign the divorce papers. I want you to accept them, sign them, and make this entire process as smooth and painless for us and for Nick and Jake as much as possible. That's what this is all about? You had me arrested so you could get what you want in the divorce? You son of a bitch." She burst into tears again and was seething, trying to compose herself and control her breathing. "No, Carla, make no mistake. That is not what got you thrown in jail. You could have easily accepted the papers and lost your cool with me when we spoke again. Instead, you chose to take a swan dive off the crazy board and landed yourself right in prison. Assaulting my deputy got you here, not me. If you get one thing right in all of this, make sure you get that part straight. Then how is helping you divorce me going to help me? I'm going to help you get the charges either reduced so you only have to get sentenced to time served, or if I'm really lucky, I just might be able to talk Deputy Carter into dropping the matter altogether. But I'm only going to intervene on your behalf if you agree to make our divorce as painless as possible. Do you agree to this, Carla?" She looked up towards the ceiling in desperation. "What choice do I have? Easy. You can either choose to help yourself or not. But I don't want a divorce, Jack. How many times do I have to say it? I don't want a divorce. I don't want to split up our family. I want our family to stay together. Carla, do you remember what we talked about before we ever got married? Do you remember what we said would happen if either one of us ever cheated on the other?" Tears were now streaking down her face again as she closed her eyes, remembering our talk from long ago. We always said that cheating in our marriage was a deal-breaker. You wouldn't put up with it from me, and I wasn't going to put up with it from you. We always said that we could handle any situation other than infidelity. But I was wrong, Jack. I think we can survive this if we just work on it. I know I want to work on it. I want to find a way for us to love each other again, just like when we first fell in love. I want us to feel special again. I want to feel you love me and make love to me like we used to, Jack. You know what, Carla? You know what I'm hearing an awful lot of? I'm hearing you say the word "I" an awful lot. I want this, I want that, I want to screw my husband's boss. Oh, now he got screwed and kicked out. No problem. Now my husband is a sheriff, so I want to screw him. In other words, it is all about you. This whole sorry affair has been all about you. It is all about you and what you want. You know what I have yet to hear from you? I have yet to hear you say, "I'm sorry, Jack. Sorry for the hell I've put you through for these last 2 years. Sorry for the pain, heartache, and humiliation I've put you through." I never heard that from you, Carla. And if you say it now, it won't mean anything because you'll only be saying it because you want to get out of here and you want to get out of a tough spot. There is no easy fix for this. There is no easy way out, and honestly, I really don't give a shit what you say or want now. I am done with you. But I am sorry, Jack. I'm sorry that I haven't said it until now, but I know that the two of us are stronger than we think. I've seen an entirely new side of you, Jack. I admit that I took you for granted, but now I see how tough as nails you are. I've seen how hard you fought back, and I know that you can fight that hard for our marriage if you really want to. She begged and pleaded, but I didn't want to. Carla, I don't want to waste any more time with you anymore. I just want it to be over with. You have no idea what you've done to me. All I see when I look at you is something that used to belong to me, but was taken from me. If we ever tried to make love, all I would do is wonder whether you were thinking of Bud Roberts or some other guy you were with, and torture myself with thoughts of whether you were wishing you were with them instead of me. I would always wonder whether I was strong enough, sexy enough, or a good enough lover to satisfy you. I would even wonder if you thought I was a good enough father to our boys. I can't go through that for the rest of my life, Carla. I just can't. And if you remember, you told me that it was I who needed to just walk out of your life. You rejected me for someone else. Why would I even want you back after that? Carla sat there quietly sobbing. I hoped that it was because the realization of what she had done to me, our marriage, and our family was finally setting in. But I also had no illusions that it could just as easily be weeping of remorse for the opportunities that she had that were lost. "Please try, Jack. I'm begging you. I can't, Carla," I said, tears now forming in my own eyes and a lump growing in my throat. "There's too much there to overcome. I'll never ever be able to get over what you and Bud Roberts did. I know myself well enough to know what I can handle and what I can't. You nearly cost me my family and my very freedom, Carla. There's no coming back from that. Just please sign the papers. Sign the papers, and I'll do whatever I can to help you get out of this mess, or at least make it less shitty than it is. If you ever really loved me or cared about me, please do this one thing for me. At the very least, you owe me that." Carla just held her head in her hands and sobbed for nearly 5 minutes straight. In the end, she struggled to regain some shred of composure, wiped her tears as best she could, and then accepted a pen from me with shackled hands and signed the divorce papers, agreeing to all of my terms. I would pay Carla half the equity of the farm and split all of our savings completely in half. I would continue to carry her on my insurance until she could find suitable employment that would provide her own insurance, or for a period of 1 year, whichever came first. I would help Carla find suitable housing that would be able to serve as a second residence for the boys, as the farm would stay as their primary residence. I would also pay up to 1 year's rent for her to help her get on her feet, and would also continue making payments on her Explorer until it was paid off. I would also pay for her cell phone for at least 1 year as well. As I walked out, I looked back at her and said, "You underestimated me and my capabilities. You thought I was weak and inferior. Tomorrow morning, when the sun refuses to shine on you, think on your words again and don't forget to regret." I saw her crying and walked out. My attorney, Danielle Nichols, thought I was nuts agreeing to those terms. In reality, it probably was. Hell, Carla's mother, Caroline, was now deeply involved with a man named Martin Bellman, who was a multimillionaire dozens of times over. I had no doubt that Caroline would do whatever was necessary to help her daughter. I did all of these things because I wanted to make sure that I treated Carla fairly, and so she couldn't accuse me of trying to screw her over. Using her time in prison as leverage might give some the impression that I was being an a-hole, but if things had turned out differently and Carla and Bud Roberts had gotten their way, things would have been a hell of a lot worse for me in ways I can't even imagine. That happens to cops who go to prison. I did have one little surprise for Carla, however. I did obtain a release order from the magistrate, Judge Hannah Bergen, granting Carla release on her own recognizance. It was highly unusual, especially since I had to call the judge and stop by her residence to get the paperwork signed. Even though Carla was being held in the Hilltop County Jail, the case still originated in Oakwood County, so we still had jurisdiction. I'm sure there are those in the public who would raise 7 different shades of holy hell over this, but I didn't really care at this point. The upside was that it would make Carla happy. The downside was the fact that I would now be forced to make the 2-hour drive home with Carla. It took Sheriff Meyer's staff about 45 minutes to out-process Carla from the Hilltop County Jail. Part of that time was spent allowing Carla to have a private shower before being released. More time was spent signing paperwork and retrieving the personal effects that she had. I brought a complete change of clothes for her, and by 1:00 p.m., we were leaving Riverbend and heading home. We rode in total silence for nearly an hour before either of us said anything. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Are you hungry?" I asked. Carla just kept staring out the passenger window and shook her head. "Do you want to stop and grab something to drink at least?" "I don't want a divorce, Jack. I know I signed the papers, but I didn't want to." I kept both hands on the wheel at 10 and 2 and gripped it in frustration. I sucked in a deep breath through my nose and exhaled slowly. "Carla, we've already been over this. It is a done deal as far as I'm concerned." She wasn't actively crying, but tears were streaming down her face again. "Well, if this is your way of torturing me, Jack, it's working. I couldn't stand it anymore. I hit the brakes hard without locking them up, pulled over to the side of the road and slammed the lever into park." "Torturing you, Carla? What about me, huh? What about torturing me?" Is that what you think life would be like with me, Carla? Torture? Jesus, woman, you are really dense. I'm not talking about spending my life with you. I'm talking about all the shit that would have happened to me if your little adventure with Bud Roberts had succeeded. But it didn't happen, Jack, okay? Everything fell through with that. Maybe it fell through for a reason. Maybe we're supposed to stay together. At the very least, you need to learn to move on from it. You tried your best to make it happen. It's all that matters to me now. Shut the hell up. You made your bed, now suck it up and better sleep in it. I'm never getting back with you, you understand me? Yes, your plan failed for a reason, and that reason was that you had malicious intentions and I loved you. Ever heard of karma? She is a bitch. For God's sake, Jack, why the hell not? Why can't we at least try to move on together? Why is divorce the only option? I looked away from her. She was so oblivious to her own deviousness and utter insanity that she now physically and emotionally repulsed me. I sat there for a few moments as I could see her giving me a pleading look from my peripheral vision. I did everything I could to look away. It took all I had not to break down to find some way to keep my cool and fight the urge to slam Carla's head into the dashboard over and over and over and over again until there was nothing left but her neck and a bloody stump where her stupid thick melon used to be. And then I thought of Shannon, and that familiar serene wave of calm washed over my body, and I once again found my center and the true purpose in my life. I closed my eyes and thought of her and imagined the feel of her body, the feminine strength of her embrace, the taste of her lips and the smell of her soaps, lotions, and perfumes. It was then that I was calm enough to tell Carla what I had been trying to find the strength to tell her all along. I can't, Carla. There is no way for me to move on from this. To do that, Carla, I would have to go back to being the old me, the one who trusted you and loved you enough not to question whether you would ever cheat on me, the one who never questioned whether you loved me in return. What you did to me, Carla, absolutely changed me on a molecular level, if that's possible. Your affair and the plans you shared with Bud Roberts to absolutely crush and destroy me changed me into someone I never thought I could be, and that is both amazing and absolutely tragic at the same time. In order to save myself, I had to learn to think just as evilly as you and Bud. In order to save myself, I had to learn to plot and connive and beg and borrow and steal to get what I needed in order to stay out of jail. I have broken laws I swore to uphold just to serve what I believe to be a larger purpose. I have ripped the threads of the law to keep the blanket of justice intact, to safeguard an unknowing public from dangerous people who would otherwise have been free to roam the streets and countryside again. Because of what you and Bud Roberts tried to do to me, I have become what I despise, and that is to be devious, manipulative, conniving, underhanded, and whatever other adjectives and superlatives you can possibly think of to describe me. But I never did any of those things for myself. I did them for my boys. I did them for the public at large. I did them for you. And I even did them for Bud Roberts and Marion Lawson. I don't have blood on my hands, Carla, but I have a hell of a lot of dirt on them now. I'm not the Dudley Do-Right that I used to be. But the positive of it is, Carla, that your and Bud's actions have made me a survivor. I can honestly say that there is nothing that I wouldn't do to protect my family, my friends, and the people of Oakwood County from harm. I have stood at the face of death's door because of my commitment to that end and returned to tell about it, both literally and figuratively. Besides, Carla, the thought of waking up and finding a bitch of a woman like you beside me is repulsive. You hate me that much? Carla sobbed. Trust me, you have no idea. I put the Explorer back into gear, signaled, and pulled the big SUV back onto the highway and headed back towards Red River Falls. So yes, Carla, you are right. I am tough as nails. Fighting for your life, whether from death itself or an existence worse than death in jail, will pretty much do that to you. So I won't thank you for destroying our family, but in a way I do thank you for making me a stronger person, because I can honestly say that I never would have been prepared to become sheriff if you hadn't. I stopped talking at that point, and my soon-to-be ex-wife and I rode in silence the remainder of the trip. For Carla, it was literally a trip into the future, as she would now have to decide what her future was going to be, Only she could set the direction. The only thing I knew was that her future would not include me, at least not as her husband. When we arrived home, Carla simply went upstairs without saying a word and went to bed. She slept for several hours, probably from pure exhaustion after having spent the weekend in jail. The boys got home from their weekend trip with the youth group to Crestwood and were eager to tell us all about it. As I listened to their youthful chatter and excitement, I knew that there was no way I would have had Carla arrested had they been home all weekend instead of 200 miles east of here, a lucky break for me and a bad one for Carla. Carla eventually came downstairs around supper time. She smiled and greeted the boys with hugs and kisses on their heads. She cooked a light supper for all of us consisting of grilled ham and cheese sandwiches, and much to my amazement, after supper, Carla asked us all to remain at the dinner table. I had no idea what was coming, but she sat there and told the boys the news that she and I were going to be separating. She explained to the boys that we had been having some serious problems, and that although we loved both Nick and Jake dearly, she and I could not stay together and she was going to be moving out for a while. Carla even went so far as to say that this was a decision that she had made, and begged Nick and Jake not to be angry with me, as it was not my fault. She did fib a little bit when she said that she wasn't sure how long we would need to be apart, just long enough for her and me to settle some differences that we had. I'm sure that her reasons for keeping things open-ended were to allow the boys time to adjust to us not being together, and I was grateful for that. She also assured the boys that their home would not change, and they would remain in the house and on the little acreage with their horses, cattle, dogs, and cats that they had come to love so much. Carla assured them that although the boys would not be spending time with both her and me at the same time, they would still see both of us on a constant basis. She even went so far as to ask them to please help me out as much as possible and also ask them for help in finding her a suitable place to stay in Red River Falls so they could spend time there after school before coming home to the farm each night. To their credit, the boys were sad, but took the news much better than I expected. There were tears, of course, but neither of them broke down fully or blew up in anger. Perhaps they had suspected and even expected that things would eventually come to this. Nick had alluded to it even when I was at the law enforcement conference in Minneapolis over a year and a half ago. Sometimes we adults don't give our kids the credit they deserve for their intuition and perceptions of the world around them. Within a few days, Carla had secured a very nice apartment in a brand-new complex of townhouses that was inside a gated community. The complex had its own playground and pool that the boys would probably enjoy this summer, and was within 6 blocks of the middle school they both attended. It didn't take Mike Carter much persuading to drop the charges against Carla for assaulting an officer. I think Mike knew how difficult this would be for all of us, and realized Carla was acting out of desperate self-preservation rather than any real malice towards him or any other deputy. Marion Lawson played ball as I demanded he would, and Judge Hannah Bergen did her part to make the case go away. If we ever audited for any reason, people would remember something had happened, but there was no paperwork or reports to specify what. I never told Carla any of that, of course, just to make sure the divorce went through its natural progression. When I broke the news of all of this to Shannon, she was incredibly supportive of me, as she knew the finality of my impending divorce was weighing heavily on me, not because I wanted to stay married to Carla, but simply grief and remorse of a dead and failed marriage. It was strange, too, because I could now also begin to focus on my new life with Shannon and Bridget that would rise from the ashes of my previous life with Carla. And I knew in my heart that my boys would blend well with Shannon and Bridget and accept them as stepmother and stepsister. I was sure there would be conflicts and stumbles along the way, but my gut instinct told me there were to be far more wonderful days in our future than rocky ones. And eventually, I even began to hope that someday the right man would walk into Carla's life and give her the happiness that I was unable to. Another big surprise was the revelation from my future father-in-law that his impending wedding gift to Shannon and me would be to pay off the mortgage for the acreage so that Shannon and I could focus on other things besides working to pay the bank. It was more than I could have ever imagined, more than I deserved, and I was so shocked by his offer that I initially refused. But Jack Sullivan reminded me that I didn't want to get on his bad side, and there was nothing that he wouldn't do for his daughter and granddaughter. Then he laughed hysterically, pulled me in for a massive bear hug and said, "Welcome to the family." Thus, one major chapter in my life comes to a close. Thanks for watching. What would you have done in Jack's shoes? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more shocking stories of betrayal and redemption.